You've been stuck on the same energetic frequency for months or even years. You are defined by the same reactive patterns, the same inner dialogue that repeats itself, and the same pull toward experiences that feel predictable but leave you feeling empty in the end. But now you're feeling something different. No amount of willpower or positive thinking can change it. It's a deeper, more fundamental force. You can now start to sense the quantum signature of transformation. Those clear, undeniable frequencies that show up when consciousness is about to collapse the wave function into a whole new reality. No longer are you just waiting for things to change for you. This is about consciously noticing the field mechanics of how your new life lets you know it's coming soon. Think about the complicated web of chances that led you to this very moment, watching this particular broadcast. It wasn't the kind of story that your analytical mind might come up with about search histories, algorithms, or social media suggestions. Your attention was drawn right here by a deeper current, a quantum resonance. You could easily write this off as a random event, but something deeper inside you knows that this is extremely unlikely to happen by chance. Between your internal state and the things that happen in your external field of perception, you are starting to feel a coherence, a resonance alignment. Your personal reality matrix is undergoing a fundamental reorganization, and that emerging coherence is the first sign. The wrong idea that most people have is that a profound transformation should feel like a sudden inspiration or motivation surge, or like getting clear on the next steps to take right away. However, anyone who has really been on the edge of a paradigm shift knows that it doesn't feel like that. The truth is that it feels like dissonance. It's like being tuned between two strong radio stations. You catch distorted bits of the person you used to be and brief, shimmering glimpses of the person you are becoming, but you never quite settle into one frequency. When you feel this intense tension inside, it's normal to wonder if you are really moving towards something real and important, or if you are just creating a state of inner chaos. Feeling like you don't know what to do or have gone off track is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. It is an undeniable sign that consciousness is growing beyond its current, limited form. When was the last time you swore to change your behavior but broke your promise within a few days? You might have promised to be more mindful in your responses to situations instead of reacting out of unconscious emotion. But then you found yourself stuck in the same emotional loops. Or maybe you promised to trust your intuition more. But right away, you started questioning every little feeling and nudge inside. It's likely that the next morning you woke up feeling frustrated, and with that sneaky voice in your head, asking why real, long-lasting change seems so impossible. These cycles that keep happening are not signs of personal failure. As consciousness tries to reorganize itself without a good understanding of how transformation works in quantum mechanics, these things always come up as resistance. What's really interesting is that modern neuroscience shows that just before a big breakthrough, the brain makes more neural static, or firing patterns that are less organized and more random. Before a new, more stable order can emerge from the field of potential, it's as if the current system must first destabilize, becoming fluid and uncertain. There is no sign that you are stuck in that uncomfortable liminal space where nothing feels certain. It is solid proof that the quantum field around you is changing. It is becoming more fluid, more malleable, and more open to new possibilities. You are experiencing this turbulence right now because the base you have been standing on is changing into a quantum state and moving between a huge number of probable realities until you choose which one to collapse into a stable, observable experience. Imagine for a moment that someone else feels these same feelings, but immediately tries to explain them away. They are deeply restless, and know that something important needs to change. But they tell themselves that it is just stress, anxiety, or a tendency to think too much. They get lost in things that are familiar to them. They go back to the same relationships that help them feel like they still fit into their old identity. They also go back to the same daily routines that keep them on autopilot, and they use the same mental filters to process their experiences. Even though time moves on, they are stuck in the same vibrational loop, which is a closed system of chances that keep happening. Life itself will eventually offer them the same chances to grow, often getting stronger through crisis or disruption, because the universe, which is an expression of consciousness, doesn't give up on anyone's evolution. It's likely that you've seen this pattern play out in your own timeline. At times, you couldn't deny the urge to grow and venture into the unknown, but you chose the false sense of safety instead. Later, you would face challenges that were eerily similar, but with more intensity and greater stakes. This is when you start to understand the real quantum weight of your choices. This isn't about making big, life-changing decisions like in movies. It's about those small, quiet moments when you either lean into the unknown or back into what feels safe and familiar. Changing the waveform of your personal quantum field is what you do every time you choose expansion over contraction. You are strengthening the probability patterns of the reality you say you want to leave behind every time you choose the ease of familiarity over the challenge of growth. But now I understand something that changes everything. The universe works like consciousness itself. It is always patient, always creative, and always giving us new chances to awaken. It doesn't punish you for things you did in the past or judge your refusal. Simply put, it keeps sending you invitations that are perfectly matched to where you are in your growth journey. The same basic lesson may come back to you in different ways, such as through relationships, work problems, health issues, or creative blocks. It will always be just the right amount of pressure to help you figure out what is ready to change. People don't make up drama in their minds when they start to feel different or like something is changing inside them right now. That's your awareness becoming aware of its own growth. Being in a room your whole life and noticing all of a sudden that the walls aren't as solid as they used to be is like that. You don't have to see the whole plan for what's going to happen to know that something important is changing. The first quantum leap is the recognition itself. Now we'll talk about an important part of how transformation really works that most people never find out about. When your consciousness starts to change how it works on the inside, the quantum field around you starts to reflect that change back to you in the form of what seem to be outside confirmations. But it's important to know that these are not two separate things that are happening to you. They are manifestations of your own expanded consciousness recognizing itself in the quantum field of your experience. You may notice that certain ideas, words, or even number sequences start showing up everywhere when you are mentally and spiritually ready to understand what they really mean. You might hear a stranger in a coffee shop talking about having faith in life's process. Later that same day, you see the same phrase in a book that opens to the exact page you were looking for, and then you find a podcast that talks about the same topic. At first, your logical mind might say that this is just selective attention, that you are just noticing something that was there all along because you are paying attention to it now. What if, though, the mechanism is much deeper than that? What if the information that comes into your field of perception is actually shaped and changed by how ready you are to receive it? Quantum physics says that the observer is not just a bystander to what is happening. The act of observation is creative because it involves the observer in condensing the infinite field of potential into what is visible. If you let new possibilities into your consciousness, the field of experience will start to reflect those possibilities back to you. These signs are not coming from a different outside God. Moments when your inner energetic state and your outer experience achieve a state of perfect resonance. They are reflections of your own developing quantum coherence. A materialistic view of the world has taught most of us to think that these synchronicities are just wishful thinking, confirmation bias, or meaningless accidents. Through the straightforward lens of cause and effect, we've been taught to only trust what we can check. But how many times have 3, 4, or even 5 events that didn't seem to have anything to do with each other led you to the same powerful realization about your relationships, your creative path, or the direction of your life? You know it when it happens, because you feel it in your chest. When you feel that way, your consciousness is seeing itself in the quantum mirror of the universe. A part of you knows that you are seeing the basic workings of how awareness shapes experience, even when your logical mind tries to explain it away. Let's look at a more specific case. You wake up one morning with a strange feeling of inner space. You feel more present and material than you usually do. As you go about your morning routine, you realize how automatic and unconscious most of your movements have become. You decide to slow down on purpose, and for the first time, you can taste the complex notes in your coffee. Later that same day, you come across a deep passage about the power of mindful presence while reading an article about something completely unrelated. That night, out of the blue, a close friend calls you and says they have started meditating and asks if you have ever thought about doing the same. Even though these 3 situations are very different from one another, they all fit together to make a pattern that leads you to the same exploration of conscious awareness. Through the field of lived experience, this is how consciousness talks to itself. It's not through shocking revelations or mystical visions, but through small, persistent nudges that, when looked at as a whole, make a pattern of coherence that can't be ignored. Although scientists might refer to this phenomenon as pattern recognition, spiritual traditions have always understood it to be the universe's intelligence speaking through the sacred language of synchronicity to us. In the end, both scientific and spiritual points of view point to the same truth. When you are ready to evolve, the field around you will start reflecting that readiness back to you in ways that you can't ignore. Most people miss the fact that this process goes even deeper than they think. These coincidences are more than just passive signs that you are going in the right direction. They also test how much you trust what you are feeling and how willing you are to act on that trust. Every message that comes back to you, every meaningful coincidence, and every time the universe seems to wink at you is a deep invitation to trust over doubt, to choose growth over safety, and to choose the unknown over the familiar. This is where your real power can't be argued with. The fact that you are reading this and listening to it right now shows that you are already a part of the quantum field of transformation. These ideas are deep memories of what you already know at the most basic level of your being, and your consciousness has reached a sufficient level of coherence to recognize them as such, rather than as strange or abstract ideas. This doesn't teach you anything new. Being aware of yourself speaks a language that you are remembering how to read. Give yourself a moment to really understand that deep truth. There is intelligence behind meaningful coincidences, and you are not separate from it. As a person, you are that intelligence recognizing itself through your experiences. You are not finding something outside of yourself when you notice patterns in your life. You are seeing a reflection of your own expanded consciousness in the quantum field of all possible outcomes. This is where the process gets more precise and hard. There needs to be room for these new probability patterns to take root in order for them to become a stable part of everyday life. The universe can keep reflecting your expanded awareness back to you, but the new reality can't take hold if your life is still based on old, dense patterns, like the same reactive relationships, the same limiting beliefs about what is possible for you, and the same daily habits that keep your awareness in a state of unconsciousness. In this part, transformation asks you to do something that self-help and positive thinking don't usually talk about. It's not enough to just add new habits or affirmations to the ones you already have. It has to do with making space by letting go of things that are no longer helpful to your growth. People often find it very hard to let go of things that make them feel safe and at ease, even though they know that these things are slowly draining their life force. The courage required for true transformation is vastly undervalued by the majority of people. It's not the big, heroic life change that you see in movies. It's the quiet, moment-to-moment courage of letting go of the stories you tell yourself about who you are and what is possible. Not many people talk about the sacred and often painful work of composting the person you used to be. Everyone loves the idea of changing into someone else. Putting more soil on top of a seed does not make it grow. As it grows, the hard shell that used to protect it breaks down completely, letting the new life inside come out. Think about this idea for a moment. In order to happen, every real transformation needs space. If you're expanding your consciousness, but your life is still set up to contract, if you're still in relationships that drain your energy, doing things that dull your awareness, and telling yourself the same old stories about your limits, then where can the expansion really land and take root? Trying to plant a fresh new garden in soil that is still full of weeds and dead roots from last year is like that. This is exactly why letting go feels so very hard. It's not that you want to stay stuck in patterns that hold you back. It's because the big, scary unknown scares you more than the pain of what you're going through now. Think about that relationship you keep up just because you have to, even though every time you talk to them, you feel smaller and less alive. Or think about how you've planned your time around responsibilities that, deep down, are not in line with your core values. Or maybe it's something more subtle, like the voice inside your head that tells you over and over that you have to work hard to be successful, or that real, deep change only happens to other people. It's not a sign of weakness that you feel resistance. Our natural intelligence is protecting what we know, what we can predict, and what we think is safe. Imagine someone standing on the edge of their comfort zone, knowing that if they take a step forward, they will never go back to how they were. They are not against growth itself. They are feeling the hugeness of what it means to let go of the familiar version of themselves and become uncertain. It's one of the most vulnerable and holy things about being human, to feel like you're stuck between two worlds. The person you used to be and the person you are becoming. Here is where you need to understand something that will change everything. The concept of superposition is central to quantum mechanics. It's the idea that a particle, like an electron, is in all of its possible states at the same time, until it is seen. In the exact same way, your life exists. You are living in a state of quantum superposition right now, where you are living both the reality where you stay the same and the reality where you change completely and forever. You collapse the wave function of your life into the timeline where transformation is not just a distant possibility, but an absolute inevitability the moment you make the conscious decision to let go of what no longer serves you. In this process, look to nature for help. Putting wings on a caterpillar is not enough to turn it into a butterfly. Before the beautiful shape of the butterfly can form from that same matter, the caterpillar has to literally break down into a soup of undifferentiated cellular potential. Being broken up is not death. It is a fundamental reorganization. This pattern will be followed by every significant transformation in your life. The version of yourself that got you this far needs to become less solid and more fluid so that a new, more complex version of yourself can appear. This is something that psychologists have studied and named cognitive disintegration. It means that old mental and emotional structures have to fall apart before new ones can form. Mystics and sages have always talked about the same thing, but from a scientific point of view. They call it ego death or spiritual rebirth. The language is different, but the way it works is the same. Before something new can come into being, something inside you has to stop knowing what it is. The thing that makes this process holy, not just hard, is this. Every moment of falling apart, every wave of fear that comes up when you let go of what you know, and every tear that comes up when you let go of what you thought you needed to be happy, are not signs of failure or weakness. It's like your new life is giving birth anew. We're not seeing you fall apart. You are turning your waste into dark, rich soil that will grow your glorious transformation. Think about someone who just quit a job that kept them financially stable but left them feeling empty inside. It feels empty, almost hollow, in the beginning weeks or months. Their days don't have the familiar structure that used to make them who they were. Their very identity isn't sure now that they don't have the job they had for so many years. But slowly, gently, something beautiful and unexpected starts to come out of that emptiness. In a new way, they start to notice how they breathe. These people are having conversations that seem more real and alive. You can tell when they wake up because they are excited about the day ahead instead of scared. It's not just a relief from what they left behind that makes them feel peaceful. It's the first real sign of the person they are becoming. This is how you can change the way you think about your own release process. Every painful feeling of letting go, every moment of gut-wrenching doubt, and every fear about what will happen next is not proof that you are losing something important. There's no doubt about it. You're making room for what wants to come through you. There's nothing bad going on in your life. You are making the sacred space in your life that it needs to reorganize itself around what is now most true and authentic for you. When you look at it this way, the choice becomes holy. Because you are not just a passive receiver of information right now. As you watch this transmission and feel whatever is stirring in the depths of your being. As a person who is actively involved in the field of consciousness, you are exploring its infinite potential through your own unique experience. Every time you choose growth over safety, trust over fear, or expansion over contraction, you are letting evolution happen through your life. Please leave a comment below with this strong phrase, "I'm making room for my new reality to come into being." It's not okay to just type the words. You can think of them as a formal statement to the quantum field. This isn't about using social media. It's about stopping the feedback loop of who you have been and making it clear that you are ready to collapse the wave function into the person you are becoming. This message wasn't found by accident. Being aware of these ideas and still being present with them shows that your consciousness is already shifting to make room for these new possibilities. These frequencies aren't always in front of everyone in life. It only gives them to people whose awareness is clear enough to receive them and brave enough to act on them. That's you right now. If something in this message strikes a chord with you, if you can feel the truth of what is being said vibrating in your body, then I want you to subscribe. Not just to this channel, but to this frequency as well. Because what we're looking into together isn't just something to read and then forget about. This is a living transmission that wants to show itself in the way your life has changed, You can choose to stay in sync with this field of possibilities as it continues to grow and unfold by subscribing. When you open your mind to these higher frequencies more often, your new energetic configuration becomes more stable. Life changes don't happen just once. It is an ongoing reorganization of consciousness that needs coherence all the time and more options. By staying connected to this space, you're making it easier for your evolution to become a permanent part of your life instead of just a brief inspiration. Now, let's talk about something that will completely change how you think about how transformation works. A lot of people think that they need to fix or improve who they are before they can think about change. A quantum view of consciousness, on the other hand, shows something much deeper. You're not broken and need to be fixed. If you're not aware of it, you've collapsed an infinite field of potential into a limited, repeating pattern of experience. It's not work to change into someone else. To do the work, you have to remember that you have always been limitless. Take a moment to think about water. Its essential nature is always H2O, whether it manifests as solid ice, liquid, or vapor. The structure of the molecules stays the same, but the shape that can be seen changes depending on things like temperature and pressure. In the same way, your consciousness works. You are always the same fundamental awareness, regardless of how you feel. Anxious or calm, limited or abundant, stuck or flowing. What changes are the beliefs, thoughts, and emotional patterns that make up your environment and determine which version of yourself you can see in the real world. In the most useful and empowering way, this is where quantum mechanics meets ancient mystical knowledge. Particles in the quantum field are in a cloud of probabilities until they are squished into a particular spot in space-time as a result of observation. Like that, your life is a probability cloud with endless possibilities until your conscious and unconscious mind breaks it down into specific, real experiences. By putting your awareness somewhere different every morning when you wake up, you are literally choosing which version of reality to collapse into manifestation. Here's what makes this process so sneaky and strong, though. You're not just making choices with your thinking mind. Every part of you is making a choice, including your deepest beliefs, your ingrained emotional patterns, your cellular memory, and even the programming your ancestors gave you. These layers that you are not aware of are always sending strong signals into the quantum field that often go against what your conscious mind thinks it wants. That's the main reason why willpower by itself doesn't usually lead to lasting, meaningful change. You are trying to change a complicated quantum field that is being made by many different and often opposing parts of your mind at the same time. I'll give you a clear example of how this dynamic works. For example, think about someone who wants to be wealthy but has deep, unconscious beliefs that money is bad and spiritual people are doomed to be poor. In their conscious mind, they actively picture themselves as wealthy and take steps to reach their financial goals. But their unconscious programming is sending out strong signals of not being worthy and a deep-seated fear of having too much at the same time. The quantum field takes in these confusing signals and sends back experiences that match the dominant frequency. This frequency is usually the unconscious one, because it has a stronger emotional charge and always works the same way. Because of this, transformation should be seen as a full-spectrum reorganization of consciousness, not just a choice to think differently. Before new possibilities can become a regular part of your life, you need to become aware of the unconscious patterns that are making it happen and then change them. Tuning a complicated musical instrument is a lot like this. To get a state of harmonic resonance, each string must be tuned to the right tension. Psyche's deeper levels were deeply understood by ancient wisdom traditions, which created complex methods for getting to and changing these parts of the mind. Meditation is more than just a way to calm down. It's a way for consciousness to learn to see its own patterns without becoming identified with them. Breathwork is more than just a way to relax. It's a way to use the autonomic nervous system to get to and release stored cellular programming. Dreamwork isn't just a way to learn more about yourself. It's also a way to talk to your unconscious mind directly in its own symbolic language. You don't have to be an expert at these old practices, though, to start this important work. Getting what I call quantum awareness can begin right now. This is the capacity to observe the thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations that come up in your field of experience without automatically thinking that they make up your identity. This easy exercise makes a space or gap between your main awareness and the passing patterns that move through it. This space is the first and most important thing you need to do to be able to consciously change what you let into your reality. Work on this with me right now. Take note of whatever thoughts are going through your mind right now. Just watch those thoughts pass through your mind like clouds moving across the vast sky instead of thinking them. Now pay attention to any feelings that are going through your body. Feel your emotions as pure energy patterns that move and shift through the space of your awareness instead of that which they are. Finally, pay attention to any feelings you have in your body. Instead of identifying with them as my pain or my tension, see them as raw information that comes into your field of perception and goes away. The first step toward quantum mastery is to stop being your experience and start observing it. This simple but profound change is called epiphany. Being aware that you are the awareness in which all experiences exist helps you understand that you can choose which experiences to give energy to with your attention and which ones to let go naturally back into the field of potential. Let us now go into even more detail about how your new awareness starts to change the outside world. In quantum physics, there is a strange effect called entanglement, where two or more particles that have interacted stay mysteriously connected across any distance, affecting each other right away no matter how much space and time separate them. Your consciousness is linked to every person, event, and chance you have ever experienced. When you shift your being at the quantum level, you don't just change your own experience, you also change all the relationships and situations that are linked to your energetic field. This is why some people notice that as they change on the inside, their outside circumstances seem to change on their own, without them having to do anything. Either the connections between people in old relationships get stronger and more real, or they end in a healthy way. All of a sudden, new opportunities come up that are perfect for them now that they are more aware. Even everyday things like money, health, and living arrangements frequently change to fit their new internal configuration. It's not magic. In the complicated world of human experience, the idea of quantum entanglement is being shown. But for this process to work, you have to let go of your old patterns without trying to control or micromanage what comes up in their place. This is what mystics call surrender, and what scientists might call decoherence. Most people mess up their own transformation at this very important stage because they want to control it from their limited, egoic understanding, instead of trusting that consciousness itself is smart enough to change their life in ways they could never have imagined. Think about someone who has been stuck in a job that drains their energy for years. They know they need to make a change, but they can't because they have to pay their bills and are afraid of the unknown. From where they are now, all they can see is different versions of the same struggle. They have to choose between staying unhappy for safety's sake or risking everything for an unknown and scary outcome. But once they start to change their consciousness at the quantum level, they can see new possibilities that were always there, but couldn't be seen before. A one-of-a-kind chance comes up that combines their skills with what they really love. They hadn't thought of this unexpected financial solution before. They connect with someone who gives them access to things they didn't know were possible. There is no chance or good luck behind these events. The natural result of consciousness expanding beyond its previous limits is that it can see and attract possibilities that were not visible in the previous contracted state, always perfectly reflecting your internal configuration, your external circumstances. If you change the pattern inside, the pattern outside will have to change too. If you know how this process works, you can be patient and kind to yourself as you go through your transformation instead of fighting the experiences that are helping you grow. Name one belief you had about yourself or the world that you are now becoming aware of. Send it below to break its hold on you. What we've talked about today about transformation signals and the quantum mechanics of consciousness is only the top layer of a much bigger and more complicated system. Even though these ideas can make a big difference in how you see things, there is a whole system of 9 master frequencies that controls how consciousness changes from being unconscious to becoming the field itself. What happens when you start living from your essential nature instead of your conditioned personality? This brings us to one of the most important parts of conscious transformation. Your essential nature is the pure awareness that watches all of experience without being limited or defined by it. It is whole, creative, loving, and smart by nature. When you learn to connect with this deeper part of yourself instead of the fleeting thoughts and feelings that go through it, those qualities start to show up in your life naturally and without any effort. However, you need to be brave enough to let go of the stories that have made you who you are up to this point in order to connect with your essential nature. This includes both the bad stories about your flaws and the bad things that happened to you in the past, as well as the good stories about your successes, your roles, your relationships, and even your spiritual growth. No matter how empowering or limiting these stories feel, they are all just ideas that come up in your awareness, not the limitless awareness that you are. Because the egoic mind connects identity with survival, this loss of a fixed identity can feel very scary. Who will you be if you're not the successful worker, the loving parent, the spiritual seeker, or the healer who has been hurt? Who are you without the role that has helped you figure out who you are for so long? The answer is both nothing and everything at the same time. When you do this, you become nothing that can be captured or defined by ideas. At the same time, you become everything that exists beyond the limits of ideas. When you live from this place of essential, formless identity, manifestation seems to happen easily because you are no longer fighting what wants to come through you. You become open to the infinite creativity of consciousness itself when you are not busy protecting a limited and fragile identity. You no longer block ideas, opportunities, relationships, and resources with unconscious patterns of not being worthy, needing to control, or fear. Instead, they flow through you. The great spiritual teachers of the past and present have talked about this when they talked about living from divine will, embracing Buddha nature, or becoming Christ consciousness. They were not talking about special high states that only a few truly enlightened beings can reach. They were talking about the natural state of human awareness when it is free of thought and emotion patterns that hold it back. Right now, you can start to get to this state by asking yourself a simple but profound question. What do I want to say right now? Not what you think should happen, or what you're afraid might happen, but what you really, truly want to happen from the bottom of your heart. After that, just listen. Don't listen with your analytical mind. Listen with your whole body. You might get the answer through a strong feeling, a clear image, a soft push to go in a certain direction, or just a deep knowing that something you have been avoiding is right. By paying attention to what wants to come out of you, and then following that guidance with courage, you can start to live as a conscious partner with evolution. You're not trying to shape your life into the narrow shapes that your mind thinks are right. You are letting the infinite intelligence that made you decide how your life will go. This intelligence knows a lot more about your true potential than your thinking mind could ever know. Think of a time when you tried to control what happened, and a time when you gave up and let it happen. What was different? Tell us about your experience in the comments. Things start to look really interesting as you get used to this new way of being. It starts to feel less like the universe is neutral, cold, or random, and more like a partner in your evolution who is responsive and smart. More and more, synchronicities happen and have deeper meanings. The resources you need show up just when you need them. People come into your life who help you be the best version of yourself and push you to grow. There are still problems, but even though they can be hard, they always help you grow in ways that are easy to see now. You haven't learned some secret way to change reality for this reason. This is because you have aligned yourself with the basic creativity of existence, which is always looking for new ways to show more love, beauty, truth, and intelligence through all forms, including you. When you stop fighting this intelligent, natural flow and start consciously going with it, your life becomes a holy way for the universe to know and express itself in ways that are uniquely yours. Regarding the time frame of the transformation you are entering, I have something important to share with you. A lot of people think that personal growth happens slowly, in a straight line, like going up a flight of stairs, where each step brings you closer to your goal. Quantum transformation, on the other hand, works more like a spiral going through various dimensions of possibility. It's not a straight line from A to B. You go through deeper and deeper levels of understanding, coming back to the same themes and patterns over and over again, but each time with a bigger and better view. Because of this, you may feel like you are going backwards or losing ground that you thought you had already gained some days. You're not going backwards. From a higher octave of awareness, you are seeing the same basic patterns, which lets you integrate and change them much more deeply than before. It's kind of like seeing a huge mountain from different heights. At ground level, you can see rocks, trees, and streams. You can start to see the shapes of valleys and ridges from 1,000 feet up. From 10,000 feet up, you can see how the whole mountain range fits into the landscapes around it. Even though it's the same mountain, the view from where you are makes it look very different. Your consciousness is learning how to move through all of these different aspects of being at the same time. All of these dimensions are integrated into a single, multi-dimensional whole along the path of transformation. With this knowledge, you can get through what I call the integration phases. During these times, the deep insights you've gained need time to fully reorganize your whole system, including your mind, emotions, and body. After a big realization or breakthrough, you might feel lost, emotional, or even temporarily less capable than you were before. There's nothing wrong with this. You can see that your consciousness is actively rebuilding itself around new, bigger truths. It's like remodeling your home while you live in it. There will be times of chaos, dust, and discomfort before the new, nicer building is stable and comfortable to live in. The nervous system is literally rewiring itself during these integration phases. Your emotional body is getting rid of old patterns that it has stored. Your energy field is being reset so that it can hold and send higher frequencies of information and light. As your body adjusts to processing more aliveness than it is used to, you may feel tired, have trouble sleeping, or be more sensitive than usual. During this transformation, something very important also happens to how you relate to time. In normal, egoic consciousness, time seems to move in a straight line and is short. It seems like you're always in a hurry, trying to get somewhere, do something, or change into someone else. As you become more stable in quantum awareness, though, you start to feel what mystics call eternal time, or the eternal now. This is the deep awareness that this very moment holds all of eternity within it. This change in how you see things changes everything about how you live your life. Your goals and dreams don't go away. Instead, they become expressions of your present happiness, instead of ways to make up for how inadequate you feel right now. Some people work toward goals not because they need to be reached in order to be happy, but because the work itself is fun, creative, and helpful. The future goes from being a place where wholeness might finally be reached to a place where you can express the wholeness you feel right now. When you look at things this way, every moment is holy because you know it's the only place where life really happens. The past only exists as a memory that comes up in the present. The future only exists in our minds and in our imaginations right now. Everything in the universe is focusing on this one moment, which gives you endless chances to show love, make beauty, help other living things, and remember the beautiful truth of who you are. This is the state in which the quantum field reacts to your awareness the most. When you are fully present and not hoping for a future salvation or protecting yourself from a future threat, your consciousness is like a clear mirror that perfectly shows how creative existence is. It's easy for ideas to come to you. Problems have solutions that just pop up. Because there is no resistance, no hidden agenda, and no desperate trying to force outcomes from your limited point of view, the right people, resources, and opportunities seem to line up around your honest expression. In some spiritual traditions, this way of life is called faith, and in quantum physics, it's called holding a state of superposition, which means keeping many possibilities open at the same time without rushing to settle on one. As you learn to plant seeds of intention in the quantum field, you must also stay open to how they may manifest, which is often very different from what your thinking mind could have planned. What seems like a delay or an obstacle at first may turn out to be a divine redirection towards something much more in line with your soul's purpose. This level of deep trust grows over time as you gather direct, experiential proof that consciousness is naturally smart and that going with its natural flow is much more effective than trying to control every detail with your mind alone. You start to understand that the things you thought were your biggest failures are often the ones that lead to your biggest successes. What seemed like painful endings turn out to be necessary clearings for fresh, more aligned starts. What seemed like a terrible loss turns out to be a holy way to get something that your old level of consciousness couldn't understand, appreciate, or hold on to. As you trust more, you realize that your life has always been guided by an intelligence much greater than your own, even when you weren't aware of it. Every problem you've ever had has made you better at something important you needed for the next thing. Every mistake you think you made has taught you something important about who you really are. Every time there was chaos or darkness, there was a powerful rise in understanding and compassion that followed. There's been no waste. there has been no chance. Everything you've been through has been a part of a bigger picture of consciousness, exploring itself through the one-of-a-kind and priceless experience you have had. Realizing this gives you a deep and lasting peace because you know you are not the only one who has to figure out your whole life path by thinking about it. As an individual, it is up to you to be as real as you can in every moment and to listen to the still, clear guidance that comes from within. The universe takes care of all the complicated details of setting up the best conditions for your continued growth and expression. As this trust grows and becomes your normal state, you start to feel what you can only call grace. The strong feeling that you are being carried by a love that knows you better than you know yourself and is always setting things up for your highest good, even when it doesn't look like it. As this transmission comes to a close, please leave one word below that describes the energy you want to carry forward. A word that doesn't describe how you feel right now, but one that shows the frequency you want to live from. This is more than a comment. It's your energetic mark on the quantum field, and you are consciously declaring who you are becoming. Not only will you stay connected, but you will also stay in sync with the field of transformation. Our higher collective consciousness shows up in the outside world more and more, when more of us remember how to read the language of synchronicity, trust the intelligence of our own evolution, and choose growth over safety. As you live your beautiful, temporary life, you are consciousness awakening to its own infinite potential. Your new chapter doesn't have to wait for everything to be perfect or for everything to be clear. It is coming forth right now because you are ready to see it, trust it, and make yourself available as a sacred space for it to happen. Your whole life, the universe has been getting you ready for this moment of recognition. Everything that got you to this point of readiness, every challenge that made you more honest, and every beautiful moment that made you remember what is possible. It all comes together now in your ability to let what wants to come through you. It's not going to be your new life. You reading these words, being open to the feeling of possibility, and having the courage to let go of things that are stopping you from being the best version of yourself are all signs of it. You are welcome to the quantum field of your own becoming. Good luck with your new life,